Hi, welcome to Nasha's Art. Recently I've been making some abstract art handmade cards and I thought I'd share a little bit of my process. Handmade cards are so wonderful because by giving them to someone else it's like you're giving a little piece of yourself and they can then frame that piece of artwork and put it up and remember that event for a long time to come. To start off, I'll be using alcohol inks, alcohol markers, a hand blower, Yupo paper and isopropyl alcohol. By spraying a thin layer of isopropyl alcohol onto the Yupo paper, it allows the inks to spread and splurge across the paper more and create a thinner layer of colour. For the first bit of this project, I begin by filling the base of the Yupo paper with layers of lots of bright coloured alcohol inks. I'm not too worried about patterns or trying to control it. I'm just experimenting, enjoying and exploring. Next, using the alcohol-based markers, I put some patterns on and add more ink. More layers, more patterns. Then I go in and fill some of the gaps with more markers, using whatever colour takes my fancy. The whole aim of this really is to go for lots of colour and lots of interest all over. The alcohol inks are so exciting to add. They create these unpredictable patterns that are kind of out of your control, and that's the beauty of them. At this stage, there are plenty of other options you can do if you want to experiment further. You could spray a light spray of the alcohol ink and it will go in to the ink you've already laid down and add a sort of speckled look. You could use the end of a kebab stick or a brush and pull or move or tweak the paint around, the inks around, to create further patterns. The world is your oyster here, and it's all about your imagination and creativity, bringing something new and interesting to the mix. You can also move the ink around by using a drinking straw which you blow through. When the ink is wet, by blowing through the straw you can push the ink around to add creative spikes and splurges across other colours of ink. You can use an alcohol marker to add in patterns and details. You can turn ink splats into monsters, worms, strange-eyed creatures, and wherever your imagination takes you. Reference photos of nebulas and galaxies taken by NASA's space station can be very inspiring and help you to add more interest to your artwork. Also, underwater photos of coral reefs and blossoms, forests, trees in fall or in full bloom. All these can help add a bit more interest and detail to your artwork as you go. To finish this part of the project, you need to fill up all the white Yupo paper with passionate and vibrant colours. Ready for the next layer, which you will do by using brush strokes of carbon ink on top of the alcohol inks. Here I'm using one of my handmade brushes. There's a video which I will link at the top here and in the description below that shows you how to make some of these brushes. Using a loose hand and arm, you can create swirls and twirls of almost calligraphic-like shapes that add interest on top of your ink background. The carbon black ink that I'm using on top is a water-based ink that dries waterproof. It works perfectly well over the alcohol-based inks underneath, but it did take a little bit longer to dry. And there were some little patches where it resisted going over the alcohol inks, and I quite like the little texture that added. When your artwork is complete, you'll need to measure it and cut it down to the size that fits your cardstock. You could either fold an A4 piece of card or buy ready-made cards. Before you attach it to the card, you will need to use UV archival varnish because alcohol inks unfortunately do fade with exposure to light. This varnish is very smelly, so it's recommended to do it in a very well ventilated area. Layer your artwork with a couple of layers of this varnish. This will give it a protective coating so that it lasts longer if exposed to light. Once you've done that, use either artist spray glue, I like using simple glue stick, and stick it onto your cardstock. You could decorate the border of the card and of course write your very personal message inside. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and found something useful in it. Please do like and subscribe. Your support is greatly appreciated. Also check out my other artwork at Nash Henkel Art on Instagram and Facebook.